So today I have an interesting dream for you. I dreamed there was this man who was selected for a special mission in space to a max space station in prison. He met people within his command post who trained him on what he was to be doing. He was to be the new captain of the station, and he said goodbye to his wife and son, who he wouldn't see for a few months at best, and then gets into this giant rocket ready for takeoff. He gets into the station and finds the crew of it missing. He goes down to the prison silo, and all the prisoners are there, but something has driven them insane. As he's looking around for the crew, the power of the whole station cuts. In this scenario, the oxygen for the prisoners gets cut first, so the man knew they were going to die in a matter of hours. So when he went over to a control room and barred himself in, he found the manual overrides for all of the low security prisoners. He turns and pulls the overrides, and the doors for the prisoners are open. He then listens at the doors and hears all of the prisoners are out hitting on various walls and others in the space station. He realizes that it's only a matter of time before they completely destroy the station, so he has to get back to the control tower to eject and hopefully get back into Earth. He slowly opens the door and sees nobody, so he climbs out and starts heading towards the control center. As he goes, he passes by huge metal doors which contain the high security inmates. He can hear them slamming the walls, and he knew they had also gone completely insane. He passes them and finds the manual overrides at the end of their cell blocks. He looks down both hallways to either side of himself, and he sees prisoners biting and ripping off pieces of the station. He knew that it would be a matter of time before the station blew up. One of the insane prisoners saw him and slowly started floating towards him. He decided to free the other prisoners as a distraction and pulled the override for that block. The high security prisoners were released and immediately started attacking the other prisoners as the man barred himself in the cafeteria and exercise yard. This was a very long room where prisoners could go from the bottom of the room to the top by pushing off of stands mounted in the glass-covered exercise yard. So the man entered at the bottom and used the stands to propel himself upwards fairly quickly. He didn't see at this point he was being followed. He knew that an air duct in there would lead directly to an escape pod, which was meant for the kitchen staff. He then looked down and saw a prisoner slowly floating towards him, far enough away but definitely a danger. The man then pushed on a platform with immense force and flew right to the top of the yard. The prisoner, in his frenzied state, started pushing off platforms to get to him, but wasn't able to understand clearly how to do it. The man pushed against the side wall and propelled himself through the door at the top of the glass exercise yard and onto a wall with a number of gauges and a small ventilation shaft that the man knew would send him to an escape pod. The man ripped off the cover and climbed in, which caused the frenzied prisoner to go even more frenzied and managed to get to the shaft just moments after the original man. The man hurried through the shaft with the prisoner just inches away from his heels until finally he pushed through a small airlock in the vent and got inside the escape pod. He turned and the prisoner was trying to reach through the vent flap that separated the pod from the airlock, and so he reached in and slammed the prisoner's arms with the flap until the prisoner recoiled, and then he closed and locked the flap. The man launched the pod, and suddenly the window in front of him appeared as though he was in a forest on Earth. At first he thought it was something about the pod, and then he realized it was actually Earth, and the space station was actually a huge underground structure with artificial anti-gravity, which was meant to make the prisoners more controllable. Just as he took command of the pod, the facility suddenly exploded. He then realized this had been a hit job that was meant for him specifically, though the reason was never specified. So he used the pod, which acted more like a quadcopter with anti-gravitational propellers, to grab an undestroyed missile, and then he navigated through the forest to the command center he had been just days before, and destroyed it. On the way, we learned a bit about the world the man was from. Evidently, in an attempt to democratize China, the U.S. had enlisted a band of enlightened teachers who went and started teaching the Chinese countrymen en masse, and caused them to rise up against their emperor. After overthrowing their emperor, they were then forced to contend with the rest of the world at their darkest hour a savior came from the mountains and led them to victory against their opponents. Then a senator attempted to use this group and so encouraged the creation of this massive prison facility, which led to a series of events that would cause the main man to have a hit placed on him, though the details of that were never clear. And then I woke up. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope that you tune in the next time.